Right, Harry boy, Mr. Jackson. I haven't spoke to
Yeah.
you for ages, bruv.
I know.
Listen, we're gonna. I mean, thanks for saying that you're gonna chat to us. Obviously, big thing to do. And you're all right for me to record it. Obviously, we'll only post it if you want us to. But you're all right for me to record the video,
Yeah, of course, mate.
Sweet. All right, mate. Well, I don't know where. I mean, I'm just gonna grab it and just see where we end up, I suppose. So, you know, we've known each other for at least 10 years, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that right?
Back in
10
the,
years?
but
David
back
Lloyd
in the
days,
David
bro.
Lloyd days, yeah.
I used to tell you Lanks what to do on the bar. Get you to clean up the floor and all that. No, so we've known each other for a while, so we know each other quite well. And I mean, you know what I'm like, a miserable old git, a moany old git, suffer with, you know, self-confidence, put on a bit of a big act, which most people know about me, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, all front, and then a softy at heart, I suppose. So I mean, with us, I suppose with me and you, you're quite similar on that front. I think with, you know, I feel like that you know, we're both quite sensitive. Self-belief and self-confidence is quite a big thing for both of us. So I think, you know, there's similarities there. Do you think, or I mean, say if you disagree, obviously. But,
no, most definitely. And I think obviously knowing you for as long as I have known you, and I think we had a brief discussion before this, and I think it was clear that, like, you obviously you mentioned that you wouldn't necessarily know it went as deep as it does, which we'll come on to in a sec. But you kind of always had that kind of inkling, and to be honest, and it was always something with you as well. Always, like, we've had one-on-one conversations and one-on-one, like, we've been out and it's just been the two of us, and and I think it's always completely different. But then you put yourselves into a group environment, which I think I always struggled with. You know, it was always like, if you say one-on-one with any of my pals, it was fine, I'd have a laugh just like anyone else would. But then you put me in a group of more than even three. Do you know what I mean? As long as there's not two of you, I used to just, in my head, it was just a constant battle in my head, and it was like, I've now got to live up to some bravado that I've made up in my head that I need to be a certain way. And you can't blame that on anyone, really. Like, you can say that I was trying to be a certain way to fit in, but equally, like, the more I've had time to reflect on it, it isn't really so much that. Because I think if I was truly myself the whole way through, would I still have had the friends that I did? And I probably would. I'd like to think I would have. Do you know what I mean? As I am the way I am, people like me for who I am. However, a lot of people have an opinion of me and a preconception of me based on the way that I used to act, or I used to go around and doing things and put myself in situations I shouldn't have, because in my head that was how I thought was the best way to be perceived, when in actual fact you grow up a little bit and you think, I look back, and to be honest, I'm embarrassed about some of the way I used to act and some of the things I used to say, even down to the way I talk.
Everyone does, though, mate. Imagine the sort of things that I've come up with. One second, I'm just going to turn the aircon off. It's freezing.
Oh, mate.
Imagine the sort of things that, you know, we've all done it, haven't we? I mean, I can't even count how many times I've said stupid things, or embarrassed myself, or started a row. How many times have, you know, outside the old cab station in Beckenham? You know what I mean? Like, we all do it, don't we? But I just think, and you mentioned something to me before about, you know, like, and you said about you know, you make things up in your head, and I'm the worst for that as well. And you said about sort of going home, you know, once you get in that mindset, you just want to go home then. And I used to do that quite a lot, probably when I was like, when we was going to like Slug and Lettuce all the time. So I suppose I must have been like 18 to 20 or something like that, even before Capita days. And we'd be out, and I just all of a sudden go from high,
like a switch in your head,
and then bang, I'd be going home. And I remember I went to a counsellor, and I was saying to her, like, I just all of a sudden I just think I'm not comfortable in this situation, and I need to go home. Like, I need to get out of here. I don't like it, kind of thing. But I've never got to the reason why, what triggered it, or what it was. But all of a sudden in my head, I was just like, I'm not comfortable around these people. I don't want to be here, kind of thing. And you mentioned to me previously about about that. So I didn't know if there was like, what if you knew what triggered it or
Yeah,
not.
I think
It sounded very
from
similar to me, really.
yeah, and I say I think for me, I've had a lot of CBT with different therapists from the age of about probably 17, maybe even 16. I can't remember exactly.
What's CBG, mate? Sorry,
CBT, so it's cognitive
CBT. Sorry.
behavioral therapy.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, and essentially it's all about, which obviously when I was looking at a couple of videos you've done already with people, it's kind of changing the way that you think and changing your thought process. And if you do that,
Right.
you're halfway there already, or 3/4 of the way there, because essentially a lot of the stuff that you go through is just in your head. You know what I mean? I used to go out and I'd walk into somewhere, and I'll be lying if I said I'm fully over it now. I'm not. Like, I still do it sometimes now. I still have that element of kind of anxiety when you go out and you put yourself in a scenario, and all it would take would be for one look that someone could be looking straight past me and looking at their mate behind the bar, or looking at a bird walking past me. But if they're in my direction, my head is thinking they might then look to their mate and they might smile, when in actual fact they're probably trying to chat up the bird behind me. Do you know what I mean? But if they're looking in my direction, that's it. They're laughing at me. What do I look funny? Do I not? Do I stand out? And that, honestly, that is all it would take, and that'd be it. And in the end, I would literally just get like, I would just buy drink after drink after drink, and I'd just get such like I was really like a drunk where I get all silly and fall over. I'm more of a drunk when I get to a certain stage. I just become like a bit of a mute, to be honest. I just kind of drink and drink and drink, and it probably has the opposite effect that it does for most people. Whereas it kind of gets you buzzing and gets you up there. Like, if I manage it right, then of course I can be like that. But I used to find that I would get myself in that state, and then I'd just be like, you know what, I just need to go home, and I'd end up like wandering home. You know what I mean? And you'd be out in Beckenham, and I'd be wandering home to West Wickham, which doesn't sound far home, but then from about midnight, walking home, it's going to take you a good hour, and you're wandering the streets,
kind of thing,
and you're just thinking like, why have I actually left? And then you start questioning why you've left. And I've had like little things where I've turned back and it's like walking back, and then I thought, you know what, no, I don't. It's too late now. I'll walk back again.
Yeah.
And if someone from the outside looking in is probably thinking, oh, this geezer's escaped from somewhere. You know what I mean? I'm moving up and down. I'm turning around. I'm talking to myself, but that was like a nightly occurrence, and the people that I used to hang around with and stuff like that, and the people I go out with, would be none the wiser to it, because I would always try and put on that persona and be upbeat and kind of make a joke and make a tit of myself, and I was always kind of that person that would be like, if in doubt, Harry would do it. You know what I mean? Because I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I wanted to please people, I wanted to make them laugh, and look back now, and as I say, I cringe and I'm embarrassed, because in actual fact, a lot of the people, not the people I was with, I don't for 1 minute think they was necessarily laughing at me, but a lot of other people within the area that we were in, or the place we was at, would have been laughing at me, because I'm just making a tit of myself. You know what I mean? Or we'd be at a friend's barbecue, for example. Wouldn't even be out. We'd be at one of my mates' barbecues and stuff like that, and it would be like, or if it'd be like, I'll do a shot or whatever, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it, just because I wanted to
be involved.
You're just trying so hard, because if you feel like if you don't do
but
that,
you're kind of I think that comes with the, like, you know, I spoke with Joe about this, about the pressure of the school we went to, the type of people that everyone's been molded into in the area we live in, and you know, what is there, 3 years between us? Boys, the boys are very similar, aren't they? There's not like, you know, just because you're in a different age group, boys are always very, very similar. It's not, you know, doesn't matter the age difference. Everyone wants to take the piss out of each other, which is great, and I love it more than anyone else. But you know, when I was you know, 16, 17 and younger, I couldn't handle that. I used to take all that to heart, and I think that's where, for me, the, you know, being a man and acting up to fit in and you know, be accepted, or what's the word, you know, be part of the boys, and you know, like you said, Glen will do it. Glen would, you know, make a tit of himself. That's where that come from, I think, because of so long of not being able to handle the banter, and being the one that got upset about it all, and being the sensitive one. I didn't want to be that guy anymore. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to not be myself, but it wasn't acceptable for me to be, you know, sensitive and weak, and not be able to take banter. It was not acceptable in society that we grew up in. It's not. And if you show that weakness of getting upset with it, then you know what I mean? You're going to get it more, and then that plays more of a thing on your mind, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely,
and that screws you up a bit more, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. And as I say, like for me, it was even mentioned it to you yesterday. It was even for me, it was even come down to not even that initial social interaction. It would be down to fucking like WhatsApp groups, for example. I would even struggle to even if it was something. You know, if you're talking about the football results and stuff, you get stuck in, you get involved in that conversation. But if it came into anything else, it was just I just didn't. So like towards the end of kind of when I was living in Beckenham, it was kind of like. I just wouldn't even. People would ask me a question in the chat, and I wouldn't even write it because in my head I'd be so conscious of the way that message could be perceived. Even if I'm just writing, no, I don't fancy it tonight. I'm not out tonight. I knew deep down that the reason I didn't fancy it tonight, which was quite often, was because the only place I felt most comfortable in was. It sounds as sad as it is, was my bedroom because that's where I weren't being judged. I could just sit there, I could chill, and no one was looking at me, and I was content doing that to a certain extent. Whereas everyone else from the outside looking in perceived it as, you know what, do you know what I mean? I've been someone that's kind of always had a girlfriend, not the same girlfriend, but you know, I've always been with someone I've never really been, probably like 9 months maximum. I've been single at any given time, probably from the age of 17. So for me, it was always like he's whipped or whatever, or he don't want to do this, he doesn't want to do that, he just don't want to go out. When in actual fact, if you was to ask any of the people I was with at the time, it would be that they wouldn't be with me either. Do you know what I mean? They'd be at home or they'd be out because in actual fact, I wouldn't be with them either. It would be that I just wanted to be on my own. And I wanted to be, and the reason that it came to light the most really was my parents. You know, I mean, they'd notice it, and your chat with Joe the other day kind of sung home to me as well, was about like the mood being up and down. Like one day I'd come in from work and I wouldn't shut up, and my dad would be on it straight away. He was like, "Fucking hell, like you're happy? What's happened to you? Like, why are you so happy?" Because the day before you wouldn't say nothing. You'd come in and go, "Yeah,
so
right."
I can relate to that, mate, and I think that. Like, what do you think, like, in terms of, you know, the when you said about wanting to stay in your room and being judged and stuff, where do you think that's something you've had? I mean, is it something you've had for, ever, or do you think that stemmed from somewhere, or what? Because I mean, I went through a stage probably from as soon as I started work, I suppose, and left school and was drinking all the time and, being out all the time, every weekend, living for the weekend kind of thing. You obviously drink and you're hungover and then you don't speak to your mum or whatever. And then obviously you go to work on a Monday, you're in a mood, you don't go home and speak to your mum. And then by the time Tuesday or Wednesday comes, you're all right. But then I used to go and sit in my room all the time. And Joe mentioned it again, like, I think it was Joe. Ben mentioned it. He would not eat dinner with his mum and dad, and I used to just get me dinner, go upstairs, eat it, not talk to me mum. So, do you think that there's any reason that you ended up in that place, or you're just in your mind you just felt insecure, I suppose you'd say, or about being judged, or what do you think?
I think for me, like I've had therapy with a few different therapists, and they always try to pinpoint what caused you to be this way, or what something must have happened.
There's a trigger to you. Or something, right?
Yeah. And whatever that was the reason, essentially, why you are the way you are. And to be honest with you, that's one thing that I wouldn't say. I'm not saying it's not true, but for me, I wouldn't say that I can't think in my head pinpoint one thing that would have made me be the way that I am. And that's why the therapy didn't essentially long term. It worked briefly, but didn't work long term for me because they were so persistent on what caused this. And you need to kind of in your head get to that stage where you know what caused it. But I don't, and I don't think there has to be a specific thing that made you feel that way.
No.
And I think for me, it is just a self-esteem thing. You know, when you look at, and I've always been one. When you be watching telly, be watching fucking, anyways, Essex, be watching things like that, and you look at people and you think, oh, he's a good-looking bloke, and all of a sudden you then compare yourself. Or I used to anyway. You then compare yourself to someone that, he's a good-looking bloke, but not everyone looks like that. Do you know what I mean? But I'd be then fixated on the fact that people find him attractive. I don't look like him, therefore I'm not going to be found attractive. Do you know what I mean? Or things like that. Or I'm not going to, or he's got a bit of banter about him. He goes around, he's a bit of Jack the Lad. He like owns a room when he goes into it. He can talk about anything. I'm not necessarily like that, therefore I won't be perceived in that way. And that was it. It was always a comparison thing with me. Do you know what I mean? My parents, you say you're like, for me, I'm a bit of a mummy's boy. My mum's always right, and they are. She knew from early on that I was always trying to compare myself to someone, which was you shouldn't, you shouldn't do it. Everyone is different. And
no, you
you're trying to
shouldn't.
compare.
And I think you're right there. And I think I've definitely done that. And I think, with me, and when I mentioned, with my mates and stuff before, and I was sensitive, and there's all the banter, that's not their fault. I no way I'm having a dig at them at all.
Definitely not.
But I feel like, and I felt like, from early on, I've always been little Glen, and got bashed up by the boys, the bigger lads, all the time, because I was weak, small, and then you just think, you compare yourself, and you think, I've got to be stronger. I've got, like, even my dad said, you've got to man up. You've got to be strong. Be like so and so. Be like that. I don't want to be like them. Do you know what I mean? Now you think, I don't want to, like, that's not me. Like, and I think, obviously, like, you're gonna feel like you've got to compare yourself to other people because they're the people you're around. That's a natural thing, I think, to compare yourself. There's not one person that hasn't done that, but not everyone can manage that in the same way. Where tomorrow it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I definitely went through a stage of that, and I think that, again, another trigger for me to go, that's it now. I'm not having this no more. I'm talking about in my own head. I'm not being that guy anymore. I'm going to be Glenn Wheeler, the confident person, the one that, is out there, out on the booze all the time, having a good laugh, chatting to the girls, center of attention. And that is, for me, that's something clicked with me. And it was definitely after when my dad died, and I went, I've got to man up now. Everyone's always been telling me to man up and be strong and all that. Like, I'm not going to be strong physically because I'm just not going to be like that. But mentally, I will be. So I think that's, for me, what triggered me to turn into a bit of a flash, arrogant little git, basically. Some people don't mind it. Some people thought Glenn was arrogant. It is what it is. At the time, I would have cared, but now, don't give a shit. And I definitely, deep, if you know that person, you know that they're not really arrogant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And the people that know you well are the people that you want their opinion, you care about their opinion.
Yeah,
other
exactly.
people that just see you as someone that passes by who has an opinion based on one interaction, essentially, their opinion doesn't matter. And I'm similar to you. It took me a long time, and you're talking only really within the last probably 18 months to 12 months. I've now realised that doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't actually matter whether someone thinks that of you. The thing that gets to me is is preconception. And again, even me saying it out loud, I kind of know it's probably all in my head, but I have a thing that a lot of people have preconceptions of me, when in actual fact, you look back and you think, who am I to a lot of these people? I'm just someone that they've seen. Do you know what I mean? They're not actually going to be sitting there thinking, this guy's a prick, or this guy's arrogant, this guy's that, because why would they? But in my head, I built it up so much that I couldn't go anywhere without someone thinking I'm a twat. And then I think, or someone judging me for the way I looked, or the fact that I had fucking thin hair and I didn't have all this thick, lovely hair that all these people have. You know what I mean? I didn't have it, and I didn't. And I used to be so, like, honestly, it would just living with it and I'm still living with it now to a certain extent. As I say, like, it hasn't gone completely, but for me, it just used to. I look back and I think from the age of probably, I think really kicked in probably from the age of about 20 to 25. That's 5 years that I think I look back, and I wouldn't say they were wasted, because I had some good times, I had some good laughs, and I did generally enjoy myself on some occasions. But there was definitely more occasions where I didn't enjoy myself, although that I was being perceived to be having the best time ever. When in actual fact, as I said, I was just constantly fighting a battle in my head that didn't even exist. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a battle. No one actually held these strong opinions of me that I thought they did, and if they did, and if they do, you know what I mean? Or if they did back then, I've now looked at it with a different mindset. Is that, like, fuck them? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Why do I care about someone that I'm never going to see, or only see occasionally as we cross paths? Whether they think I'm a nice guy, or whether they think I'm a prick, I don't care. But as I said, 18 months ago, I would have cared, and all the time before that. And I think it's just. As I said, there's loads of things, and I know there's been a lot of chat about when to go to a doctor or when not to go to a doctor and things like that. And I think I think you're right in terms of there's no right or wrong answer. Some people need to go to the
There,
doctor, and they need to
I
have.
mean, I'm going to say that because I haven't, right? But
Yeah.
you know, I can't remember which conversation I mentioned it in, but I said to Amy, like, do you think I should go? And that's when I realised that maybe I shouldn't go, because she said, you will label yourself as that if you get, you know, they tell you you've got
Yeah.
bipolar, or they tell you you've got OCD, which I know I've probably got some sort of OCD already. You know what I mean? I don't need a doctor to tell me that. But I'll just label myself as that, and then I'll use that as an excuse for everything, and I'll fixate on it, and then I'll get obsessive over it. That's how I know I've got some sort of OCD, because I know I'm going to start obsessing over this thing, and it will control me. And I know that you should go to a doctor if you're not right, but I feel like I don't even know the words of it. Like I've got myself to a place where I'm managing it, and I know how to control it. I know what the things I need to do to avoid getting into dark places and feeling the lack of confidence and the self-doubt and the lack of self-confidence that I consistently suffer with. But I think I've managed to get myself to a place where do I really need to go now? Because I'm doing everything that is helping me. Do you know what I mean? And I know what that is now, and that's exercising, that's being busy. Because like I said to you, I don't do anything really at work. Like, I mean, I do obviously do loads of work, but it's just not. My mind's not. My mind's not busy, you know. So I'm just it's being passionate about something, being busy with something, having a plan and a project on the go, where my mind's being used. Because if it's not, then I'm back on that sofa and I'm feeling sorry for myself. You know what I mean?
And I think I'm very similar to you in the fact about not being labelled with something. And then so the pattern for me, albeit when I first went to see the doctor, I was only about 17 or 18. So mental health, especially in men, has kind of as like progressed massively since then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think so. The conversation I would have had with the doctor now, I can't say whether that would be the same if someone was to go to the doctor now. But essentially for me, it was. They asked me why I was feeling like that, and obviously at 18 or whatever old you are, you don't have those answers. So then they say, "Oh, we'll send you for some CBT, this cognitive behavioural therapy to change the way you think, and they'll get to the root cause, and you'll be better," kind of thing. And I think from the first time I went, so I was only young, and I was actually sat down on this kind of like beanbag thing, and I felt like obviously I've got low self-esteem anyway, and that's kind of the reason I'm there. I've stuff with anxiety. I'm worried all the time. I'm going out and I'm just constantly worried about everything. And then I go there, and then I'm sat on this little beanbag, and I've got someone sitting on a chair that's looking down at me.
Yeah,
I'm now feeling the way. The reason I'm here is because I'm feeling the way that now you're making me feel by doing it. I had one session, and I never went back. But then I had a second therapist, which was completely different, and it was more of just a general chat how I'm having with you. And I did prefer that, and we did develop in a way that I felt like it helped me a little bit at the time, but it was never something that I could fully commit to. I think the longest I ever went was for 3 months, and you have one session every week, and you go there every week. So on a Wednesday or something. I used to go before work. I used to go 8 till 9, and then I'd come into work a little bit later. And it was once a week, and you'd have a chat, and I'd feel good sometimes, and sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and think, you know what, I can't be asked to go. And all it takes is for you not to go once, and all of a sudden, in a way, it's a little like black mark against your name, because there's people on a massive waiting list that want therapist help, and when you kind of take it for granted, quite rightly, you say like, if you do this again, we're not going to be able to commit to you. And again, I think for me, when at the early stages of seeing someone, I was kind of being pushed that way by my parents. They were like, it will help you, you should go. And I never really wanted to do it for myself. I was doing it because I was told to do it. And that's also a massive difference. You need to make that decision yourself, because if you don't, you're going to go in half-hearted, and you're never going to get to the right outcome. And for me, and that I was offered tablets on numerous occasions, and again, I considered it at some point. Sometimes I did, and then again, you go back to your parents know best. And I spoke to my mum, and she was like, she knows that I've got an addictive personality, and I do. Whether that comes to having a gamble here and there, I'm addicted to it. Whether it means that the summer's coming up and I want to look a bit trimmer for a holiday, that means 3 months I will solidly commit. I'm not going. I never really give 50%. I'm either all or nothing. You get 100% of me or you get nothing. So if I commit to something, I'm that's it. I'm solely focused on it. I'll go to the gym every day. I'll do this. I'll try and eat as best I can, and that will be it. Whereas she knew that, for example, if I then became reliant, I felt I was now reliant on taking a tablet to make me feel a bit better. I would never get out of it. I'd still be here now taking a tablet, thinking unless I take this when I wake up in the morning, I roll out of bed. If I don't take this, my day's going to be ruined. And generally, I know that's the way I would have thought for a long time. So I never did it, and I was never specifically labelled with anything. But for me, I know I've got a type of OCD to an extent because of how obsessive I get with anything I do. If I get stupid example, when remember being in the sixth form when we was watching, I was doing film studies. Obviously, I picked that because you always think film and media are going to be the nice easy ones. And still failed.
So everyone knows, I took RS and then photography, but which is even easier, by the way.
So I did that, and we watched the Titanic, and I'd never seen the Titanic. Obviously, I know I heard about it, I never watched it, and I watched it, and I generally I went home that night like a proper geek. And when I was on YouTube watching videos about how they filmed it and how because it's a true story, I used to be like, fucking hell, can't believe this actually happened. And I became fixated on things. If I know something actually happened, I'm not one for sci-fi or kind of superhero films and all that because it's not real. If I know for something that has actually happened, then it's like a reconstruction of that. I became obsessed with it, and
I'm exactly the same way. You know The Crown.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Princess Diana, mate. Obsessed with her. Amy almost was like, no, I don't want to get married to you anymore. Literally, I like reading her book. By the way, I never read books. Now I'm reading her book.
Yeah.
And then on Instagram when you go on Explorer, and then things that they obviously got you and
come up. Yeah.
Everything's Diana, mate. Everything is just Princess Diana. I'm speaking to Amy and I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm just with Diana at the moment, my other girlfriend. So can you hold on?
But it's true. Mate, that has to be. It has to be everything. A form of OCD. It has to be because that. It isn't. I wouldn't say it's not normal behaviour to become like that. But I do.
I continuously search and find out as much as I can until I feel like I can't. I'm satisfied basically. Until I feel like I can I kind of almost can't breathe until I've done enough.
You get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Until I've done enough of have soaked in enough of it that I feel Diana'd out or Titanic'd out or whatever the program is. Like there was another one about Fred West and what's it? The serial killers, Fred West and Rose West. What was it called? Appropriate Adult. It was called.
Yeah.
Mate, obsessed with it, and I just get so that's it. You know what I mean? And then that's when the worries come in and. Then if it becomes about money, then I've got a spreadsheet out of savings and how the year's going to work for savings, and we'll save $2,000 this month, 1.5 this month, $3,000. Do you know what I mean? I just got until I've done it all, I can't stop, and then I come crashing back down then after because I'm like, fuck.
You've got nothing now. What do I do? Kind of thing.
I've worried too much, and I've got myself in a bit of a twist, and it just becomes a bit overwhelming. Then I overwhelm myself with obsessiveness.
Yeah, no, definitely, and as I said, it is something that I think a lot of people suffer from, and I think for me, as I said, all the therapy I had. This is the God's honest truth. Would I have had this conversation with you like this now if I hadn't have seen some of the videos that you've already done? And that's the God's honest truth. I wouldn't because actually listening to someone that's from the same area within the same age range, sort of with probably you go who actually kind of says things that you actually think it's like looking in the mirror. Like that's everything you're now saying is how I've actually felt for years. But I've never had the guts to say anything.
And
the maddest
thing about it is that it ain't just me. It ain't just the other people that have spoke, mate. Every bugger out there, nearly everyone out there is feeling this. I'm 99% sure that 90 out of 100 people feel exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Or have felt exactly the same way. That doesn't mean they have to come and talk to us, because maybe they don't get affected by it. But it's an absolute fact, and I'm sure of it, that there's, you know, anyone and everyone that went to Langley Park Boys School, right, is felt this way.
Yeah.
And I just think to myself, you know, what about those kids and those people that were getting abused at school every day, taking the piss out of every day? What the hell are they feeling if I'm feeling like this? Do you know what I mean? Because someone spantered me, because someone's, you know, said, Glenn, you look like a rat, or you got rat teeth, or you got a big nose, or said I've got a little willy, because me willy came out in the changing room one time in year 7, and then got called Little Willy ever since. Or Pasty Warrior, they used to call me at school, because I was so pasty. Do you know what I mean? That like, what are those kids feeling like? I'm not knocking what we're feeling or what you're feeling, or saying, you know, you've got to man up, or it's nothing. But you just think there's other people out there that must be also struggling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I look back to days at school, and I can see things like they were yesterday. Do you know what I mean? I can see
me as well,
things that happened to people, and I think like, and I'm not talking like proper like vicious attacks to people. I'm on about like someone just pushing someone over in the playground, or emptying their bag out into a puddle or something like that. And you see stuff like that, and I used to just stand back, and you'd be one of those people. And I was never someone that did that, and that's the truth. I didn't, but I was always someone that would stand back and have a laugh about it.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, you look back now, and as you say, you're quite rightly, look, what people, how do they actually feel? And it is just, and if you've got people that those types of people would have probably looked at people like us and thought, they appear to have it quite easy. You know what I mean? They don't get picked on, or that they're not the bullies. They don't get picked on, but they're just they're kind of floating between. They're just. But in actual fact, you know what I mean? You have your own battles yourself, but it's all about how you're perceived and that kind of guard you put up. And it was, for me, it was like where we used to work in Beckenham, like I'd go into that environment, and it would be like, I can't say I used to get tired because I was grafting so much work. It wasn't. I was tired because of the act I was putting on a daily basis. Every single person within that period of time that I worked there, without a doubt, if you was to ask them, they would say that I was confident, I was a bit flirty, I was a bit inappropriate, I was this, that was that. Not inappropriate in terms of like touchy-feely business. I mean, in terms of just not really professional. I'd just have a joke all the time, have a laugh, and that would be it. And in actual fact, elements of that is real me. Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit of a flirt, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy a one-to-one interaction with someone, and I like that. But then, as soon as you at 5:30 comes, or like 5:25, if you was me on a Friday, get out a bit early, come out. As soon as you get out, you stand there, and all of a sudden you get in your car, and then you might be going out.
Your energy's gone. Your energy's
gone. You get out, you drive home, and the whole journey home, I'm sitting there talking to myself, thinking, you know, I've just had quite a hard day of pretending to be something I'm not. I'm now in the car when I get
exactly
home.
The way you hit the nail on the head, because you get home, and I've been a clown all day. I've been a clown all day. I've used up all my energy of being a wally all day long, and I've got nothing left to give to my mum to have that conversation with her and just chat. You know what I mean? Not obviously now, but back then. I come home from Capita, and I've been a wally for 8 hours, winding people up and just talking crap, and then I get home and I've got nothing left. And then it's the sensitive, you know, downhearted Glenn that gets through the door at R5 that don't want to know, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever got rid of that, really. Like,
no.
I went up until I went traveling. That was what I do. I had nothing left to give, even like to, you know, my ex-partner at the time. I had nothing to give her. I had nothing, no energy, nothing. And then that's why I think we end up splitting up. And then, you know, obviously I went traveling in the end, and then didn't see my mum as much. So obviously now my relationship's a lot better when I see her. I've got the personality the real personality to give her. Do you know what I mean? And that's not even the wally clown Glenn. That's the actual,
just the actual Glenn.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. I'd say, like, for me, like, I don't live in the area I used to live in anymore. So I'm about a 50-minute, an hour drive away from my parents now. And I've got my own place, and I'm living with someone, and it's great. And then when I do go back, like, I'm actually generally like buzzing to go back, and I'll stay at home and I'll stay back in the old room for a couple of days. and I won't shut up the whole time I'm there. And my mum and dad love it, I love it, and I think, but there was so many wasted years where I would barely say a word to. And you, like, for example, you know my brother. You don't know him well, but you know of my brother. He was in your year group at school and stuff, and he's literally the polar opposite to me in the respect that, like, he's my best mate, and he is someone that I have a very, at this stage at the moment, I went through a period where you perceived if you had loads and loads of friends, that meant that you was better. Whereas now, do you know what I mean? I have a very, very small circle, and I'm talking very small circle of friends that I trust. And my brother's my best mate, but he's so different in the fact that, and I think that's another thing that kind of hit home with me, is that he'd say, "I'll come out with me and my mates tonight," and I'll be like, "Oh no, like I'm not really bothered about it." And he was like, "No, just come out." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go out." And it was just a completely different experience. I mean, my brother was there, and he couldn't give two shits, couldn't give a flying fuck whether someone looked at him and said, "Oh, you're fat," or "You're this, you're that, the other." He couldn't care. He couldn't care less. He was out. He was having a drink with his mates, and he was just enjoying himself. Whereas me, when I was going out, it's not to say that my mates weren't doing that, because I'm sure they were having a great time and they were enjoying themselves and they were having a laugh. But I wasn't, even though it was being perceived that I was. And I think that's what hit home, is that I'm with my brother and he generally didn't. He just didn't care. And I'm like, how come you don't care? And I can't go anywhere I can't even go to a supermarket without thinking someone's taking a piss out of me. Like, how come? Do you know what I mean? We're 3 years apart. Why is that so different? But then having a chat with him, like, he's gone through his own things as well, which I never knew about. He's gone through his own kind of internal battles, whether it be like stress with about like trying to become. He always a policeman, for example. Always wanted to do it, and he was like balancing jobs. Then he was like, he constantly was going out spending a lot of money on drink and stuff like that. Then he was trying to save for a house. And it all came on top of him. And now he's got his own place. He's married. He's a policeman, like full-time policeman. Now he got what he wanted to do. And do you know what I mean? It's just it just is like proofs in the pudding almost. Is that if you kind of knuckle down and change the way that you think, you can get to where you want to get. And I think for me now, I'm not fully like kind of over everything, and I still have that kind of social anxiety to a certain extent when I go out. But now I'm in like I associate myself with a crowd that I feel that just I can just be myself. And if I'm a bit quiet, for example, it won't actually stand out, because there's probably about 3 other people that I'm with that are also quite quiet every now and then. And you don't have to be constantly saying something to be involved in conversations. And I think for me, and again, similar to you, it isn't slagging off or saying anything about anyone that I used to hang around with, because they are the way they are, and good on them. Do you know what I mean? If they can be that way and they're happy with, and they're kind of being that life and soul of the party constantly, then fair play. Do you know what I mean? I always kind of look up to think, no, why couldn't I be like that? Whereas now I've understood that not everyone can be like that. And if you are someone that just needs a bit of time to like process things, process environments a little bit, and you might be a bit quiet to start with, and you come out your shell gradually, then it's completely fine to be like that. And I say it's taken a long time to get to that stage, but I feel like I am now at that stage.
Yeah, but I also think that, just because okay, so let's say I go out 10 times, eight times out of that 10, I'll be the clown, the wally, and be smashed, and the other 2 times I'll just sit there, I won't say nothing. I'll sit on my phone, I ain't interested, and that's fine, because if you're with people that understand, it's okay, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? If people don't understand that, then then people ain't really your friends, I don't think. And you learn that over over time, and as you go on, that these people might well be your mates, but they're not people that understand you enough to go, all right, well, Glenn's a miserable git tonight, never mind. Do you know what I mean?
You learn as well that like friends do come and go. You know, they do, and your real friends will stay around, but your family will always be there, and they are your family. They're not going anywhere to a certain extent. You know what I mean? They are there, and they are your family, and that isn't going to change. And I think for me, it took a long time to actually now, like when I go to family events, I look back now, I used to like, even when I'm around people like my uncle or my cousins and stuff, that everyone you can be your complete self with. I look back to like 5-6 years ago. I used to be like, oh, my dad, I'm like, oh, I can't be asked to come. And he used to have to make excuses for me why I couldn't go. I was out doing something, or I really had something planned. And I look back now and I like can't wait for things like that now, because I can't wait to just get involved with my family. Whereas before, I think even my family to an extent, not like my close family, but my wider family that used to see me on Instagram or see me out on occasions, would think that I was someone that I wasn't. So even they probably had a conception of me that was completely true. So I felt like I couldn't even go to this thing, because if I wasn't the way that they thought I was, they'd be like, "What? Like, who's the real Harry?" Do you know what I mean? To a certain extent. so for me, I now cherish every kind of minute I get with family and stuff like that, and I'm quite content with the small friendship group I've got and the big family that I've got, because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. And I think that it's taken a long time for me to get to that stage.
Yeah,
and there's so many scenarios, and I'd say that you've been with people, I've been with people before as well, and I do look back now and I think I probably held them back to a certain extent, and I regret that on them, because I feel like they're like, oh, should we go out and do that? And I'm like, oh no, like, I've got a headache, or you come up with something, or like, why don't we just stay this? Or in my head, I'll be like, I'll be straight on something, and I'll be planning something. I'd order something, I'd order a pizza, or I'd like, oh, like, let's go down to the shop and get a fucking DVD, or whatever it might be. They're random things, but like, and you kind of make a reason as to why you then can't go out, rather than just going out and doing something. And I was doing that for so long, and it's not fair on the people that you're with, but I'd say all that time that comes with age, I think, and it comes with growing up, and you grow up, and certain things happen in your personal life. People come and go. Like for example, when I lost my granddad, I was so close to my granddad, and I watched him pass away. He had cancer. We didn't want to go to a hospital, so he stayed in his house, and like the hospice came around, made him all comfortable, and we just sat there and watched him die. And that kind of like, I look back now and I just think like there was probably so many times that I could have nipped around my nan and granddad's. It was on the way home from fucking the Beckenham office where I worked, and I never did. Like, occasionally, like if it was like their birthday, or it was like fucking like pancake day, I used to always go around next to my nan and banging pancakes. You go around and do that, but it was only on an occasion. It wasn't because I felt, you know what, let me just loop in and see how they are. And then the one day that I did it. I remember the exact day. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I thought, you know what, I could be early. I'm going to go and see him. I did. And then a day later, the Thursday, the day after, I got sitting in work, my phone rang. It was my brother, and my brother was ringing off my mum's phone, and I was like, well, he don't live with us, so why has he got my mum's phone? And he was like, oh, you need to get to nan and granddad's like ASAP. And I was like, oh, all right. I knew straight away what it was. I'm like tearing up at work, and my manager at the time, who was like a bit of a mother figure to me, and she was like, she knew, and she was like, just go, like she was like, go. And I went there, and he was literally like half the size of the man I saw the day before, because he just completely, like, he couldn't even get his teeth in because his mouth had gone in like inward so much, and it was like a completely different. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there thinking, like, my last thing of him now was yesterday, and even yesterday, because he had Alzheimer's as well, he didn't really know who I was when I got there. It took him a while to register who you are, and like you get there, and you just think, like, how can someone deteriorate from like. I literally saw him yesterday, and he wasn't. He was never well, but he weren't like that. And literally, and you watched him. And when that happened, it just made me think. That was another trigger, I think, as well. It was just kind of like, I don't want to look back and regret things how I regret now, and I don't regret. I spent a lot of time, like, for example, like every summer holiday from the age of about 8 all the way through to probably 15. Me and my brother every year was my mum, dad, and my nan and granddad. Like, it was always they always came with us. So I got so many great memories with my nan and granddad, and my granddad specifically. But so I don't regret. I just regret not seeing him as much as I could have. And you look back at things like that now, and you think, and that's why now, like, I jump at the chance. If, like, obviously got this lockdown going on here, and we can't fucking barely go to the supermarket, let alone drive back home. But every time I get an excuse to go back, I'll go back and I'll spend a few days with my mum and dad, and like, the other half come with me, and it's great. You know what I mean? And it's just it's a shame that it took this long for me to realise how important that was.
No, it is,
but
mate.
as I say, like,
I feel like that sometimes as well, like with my nan, and obviously I'm away from my mum, and I feel terrible about it because she's looking after my nan. But then I ring my nan, and she don't want to talk to me anyway. So she's too busy watching bloody Eggheads or something. So you know what I mean? I try, but I feel like you can't live on regrets like that though.
no.
Because you've got to live your own life, mate, and that's something that, for me, I worry about, that, going home to be with my mum, and because my nan's getting on, but I can't let that hold me back from what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely not. And I think
we're trying to get the best life we can, so that when we do come home, we'll be, we've got a good start, we're ready, and we're giving ourselves a good start.
But your mum will know that. Do you know what I mean? Your mum will know that.
She does know that. She does. And
she'll want you. She won't want you. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And she'll want you to. She knows that your life is better out there at the minute. You're enjoying it, and you're in a better place out there than you wouldn't necessarily be if you was here. So that's
exactly.
that's the right thing for you. And like my mum, I'd say I've always been close to my mum, and she's had my brother that's moved out. You know what I mean? A long time ago. He's married now, and she was kind of clutching onto me to a certain extent, because once I go, it's just her and my dad, and they get on like a house on fire. They do. They generally do. They have their arguments and stuff, but they are a very close like couple. They always have been. So but they were like, there's no way. Like if you was to ask my mum truthfully, she hates the fact that I don't live with her now. She hates the fact that I'm so far away. Like for example, my mum's got this weird phobia where she can't drive on a motorway. Never has, never will. She just doesn't want to get herself in that situation. So she's heavily reliant on my dad's working. So if he's got time off, that's the only time she can come and see me, unless I drive back to her, because she can't physically put herself in that position to come and see me. So it's like, but she knows better. Like every time I see her now, she's like, you're the happiest I've ever seen you. You're so much, you're in such a better place. So if you'd ask her, would you want him back or would you want him to stay there? She'd say stay there because he's happy. So that's the way you got to think of it. Yeah, you can feel guilty, but in actual fact, you're there you're wherever you are for the right reason, and your family will support that decision. So yeah.
Oh, and I think I mean, absolute blinding chat, to be fair. Yeah, you smashed it, mate. Thought you were sweet as a nut. I bet you feel like you could do another one now, didn't you?
Yeah, it is. As soon as you do it, you just feel like you could. And
mate, every time I do one, I'm like, God, I feel so light, mate. And trust me, I'm not. This derby, trust me, I'm not light.
But you do though. You do think like now. I feel like you can just, and I could be sitting there for another like few hours just chatting, because there's probably so much I'm gonna, once we finish this, I'll sit back and I'll think, oh fuck, I didn't mention that. But obviously there's always other times for other chats, but you do always think there's actually so much that you could talk about different things. But I think like majority of it I've kind of covered off, and I think it is just I think my real kind of message for anyone really that would be like suffering from this is you do feel so much better once you've had a chat. And I think for me, if I'm being honest, was it easier because I knew you and we've got a friendship already there? Probably was. If you was someone that was just doing this that I'd heard of, and he was like, and should we have a chat? Would I have been as open and as honest? Probably not. But all I would say is that just by having that conversation, whether you don't give away everything or whether you give away everything, whatever you give away, as long as what you're giving is the truth to a certain extent, it will make you feel better. It might not make you feel fully better until you fully divulge yourself.
It's a weight off your shoulder, isn't it? It's you know, you've got that out of your mind. And I said something before about, like, you know, when me and Amy get into bed, she's like, oh, what happened today? Like, what's shit happened today? Give me 3 things that are shit. And I'll tell her, even if it's like, you know, Big Dave made a noise that annoyed me or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll tell them all, and then I feel fucking brilliant after, because it's gone, it's done, mate. Like anything on your mind that might be, you know, that you feel like might be in the back of your head or pressing on your chest, or, you know, you just making your chest tight or anything, like just get it out, mate. It needs to come out, I think. Do you know what I mean? Like a fart.
Yeah.
Better out than in.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you hold it in, you get a bellyache, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you release it, you're fine. And I think it's that is the best way forward. And
I'm gonna put that as a quote on the page later.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting that tattooed on my forearm. But you think it's just one of those things. And I think there is always going to be a stigma to a certain extent that by opening up, it's weak, but that's the thing that people need to change and people need to get out of that. And I think slowly but surely that is happening. And for me, even though you can argue it's a bit like it shouldn't have taken this, but for me, actually listening to other people, as I said at the beginning, people of similar age, similar group, similar kind of everything similar, really, just generally the types of people are, is that, and you know they've gone through it in a way, you know, that's horrible for them, and I'm sad that they've gone through that. It made me feel better because I then knew that everything that was going on in my head wasn't just in my head. It was actually the fact that, as you say, people that have gone on and had these conversations with you, it affects them, and it also probably affects another 8 out of 10 people that aren't necessarily ready to come forward yet. But eventually,
I'm 100% sure of it, and I, you know, the people that you think that ain't suffering, the people that you think that ain't been through it, have definitely been through it. That's what I think. You know what I mean? Like, it's just mad, really. Like, how many people that won't, you know, I'm not saying everyone has to come and do this. They don't. But the people that are suffering that aren't able to do it. They're the ones that need to go to the doctors or need something. So need to be able to talk, but they can't. So how do you help them? That's you know what I mean? It's not. That's when it kind of contradicts itself of saying you need to be brave and you need to man up but not man up and get rid of it. Do you know what I mean? And as if it's not there, you kind of need to man up and go, actually, man, be a pussy to man up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be what you would say a pussy and cry to man up. Like, if you need to cry and go to bed and cry about it, cry about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you will feel better afterwards. And it is about.
And for me, that's what's manning up. If you can come on a call like this and do what you've done and do what all these other people have done, that's manning up. That's the real man. Do you know what I mean? It ain't being strong and pushing it away and going, oh no, it ain't happening. I'm rock solid. You know.
Yeah.
Ain't got no emotions. That ain't being a man. That's being an idiot, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we've all been. I've done it more than anyone.
Yeah, we've all done it. Yeah.
I've done it more than anyone, mate, and covered it up by trying to be a cocky, flash little git. Do you know what I mean? And it don't help. It just does not help doing that. It makes it worse and it screws you up even more. So I just think, you know, I'm not, like I said, we're not here to try and get people on here and force people to come on here, but if you can do that, you're only going to help yourself. Do you know what I mean? If you can just even just talk to your mum, talk to your sisters, talk to someone, it's going to help you, because once you've talked about the worry or the anxiety or the thing that's upset you or anything, it's gone. It's gone. It's someone else. It's on someone else's shoulders as well now. That it doesn't mean half of what it means to you. And then it's gone, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I think as well,
that worry about whatever it might be, that, you know, it means nothing to someone else. That means absolute nothing. Do you know what I mean? So when you've lifted it onto them, that's half the struggle gone. You know?
No, it is. It is. And as I say, I think there's always you kind of think as well that there are always going to be nasty fuckers out there that don't give a fuck, and people, and there is, and even doing this, it's nerve wracking in a way, because you feel if this gets put out there and you think you're being open, you're honest, there's still going to be people thinking either
Glen and Harry are nutters, or what are they doing? They're embarrassing, whatever.
Whatever. But before, that would have really played on my mind. I'm lying if I'm saying it hasn't crossed my mind already, because it has. I just said it. It has crossed my mind, but now I'm in a mindset to think, if you generally think like that, and that says more about you than it does me. And if you're that way inclined, then I think that the best phrase of it all, I think which you and Joe ended on the other day, is fuck them. Which is, if they're going to be like that, then fuck them. They're not worth it, are they? And I think that's the moral of the story, really, is if you are someone that worries and suffers from anxiety and just constantly worries about absolutely anything, about people's opinions, don't, because the only opinions you should care about are the ones that mean the most to you, and that would be your family and your very close friends. Anyone outside of that, if they think you're a prat, then let them think that, and if they think you're a nice guy, happy days. But just kind of be yourself, and put yourself out there a little bit, and when you do, you will get the rewards, because as soon as you do that, as you said, I feel like a massive weight's been lifted off my shoulder. And me and 18 months, like me now and me 18 months ago, there is there's a massive difference. Not fully there. I'm not 100% the person that I think I'm capable of being, but I'm getting there. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting there, whether that be with my job,
small
that
steps,
be my personal
small
life.
Steps.
Yeah, and you will get where you want to get eventually. So, yeah.
All right, mate. Well, I'm proud of you for coming on here, brother.
Cheers, mate.
You know, it ain't easy. I know it ain't. Although I'm finding it so easy to just say anything now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, mate.
Like I said to you yesterday, I'm grateful for you doing this as well. And I said that's yesterday. It is making a massive difference. It's made a massive difference to me to be able to have this conversation, and I'm sure other people will watch this.
Well, mate, like people keep saying, people keep saying it's me, and it ain't. You know what I mean? It ain't. It's the people. All right, I've had the initiative. I didn't even plan to do this. This is the problem. I didn't even plan to do it. Like, I just wanted to get some sports games going and some football matches going and events, and it all just can't do it. So I've got no option but to
but to do
to
this,
get on a Zoom call, and now
and that's obviously a blessing in disguise. But it's clearly working. It is clearly working. You're getting
it is, and I just think it's the people that are saying, that are coming back and saying this is great, you know, following and liking. And I know it's not about follows and likes, it's not, but for people to be able to see it more, and to be able to raise more awareness and grow, we need all that. It's social media is the king, isn't it, at the end of the day? So like, I just think the people that are showing the love and doing it and getting on the calls and liking it and sharing it, you know, it's about them. They're the people that because they're the people that are understanding it and getting it. Do you know what I mean? That are saying, oh right, something needs to be done about this. That's why it's good. And they're the people that we want to keep, you know, going at, because they're the, you know, if it clocks in their mind that this is something good, then it's going to keep going, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So all of a sudden I'm a psychotherapist or a life coach, but that just wasn't even my plan.
But I say, whatever you're doing, keep it up, because it is working. As I said, it wouldn't. I wouldn't be having this conversation unless I'd witnessed someone else saying something that I was like, I was in shock when someone was saying. I was generally in shock. I was sitting on the sofa, and the other
you just think,
she was like,
wow,
what are you watching? Because I was mesmerized. I was literally just like, because it was like someone was in my head and was just reading out stuff that's in my head, and it's just, and even me and you chatting now, there's so many similarities with stuff we've got, but we would never 5 years ago, and probably closer, when we were like going out and doing stuff, would we have ever asked each other that? No, of course we wouldn't. No. And it's just a shame that people do feel like that, and there's probably loads of other people that we used to knock about with that feel exactly the same, but either don't feel comfortable speaking about it or haven't quite actually come to terms with the fact that that is happening to them. The little thoughts they might have, they might just think, oh, that's a bit paranoia here and there, when in actual fact, the longer you put it off, the worse it will get. So definitely speak up.
All right, brother. Well, hopefully you can join one of the Sunday ones, mate, at some point.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, definitely.
Because, mate, they're chilled, like they're sweet. To be fair, like,